Broadcasting from New York City to the world, it's the G-Man Interviews.
Welcome. Joining me once again is Conservative Party of New York State Chairman Michael Long. Mr. Long registered as a member of the New York State Conservative Party in 1964 and was elected as a district leader of the Conservative Party in 1968. He was elected chairman of the Kings County Conservative Party in 1972, vice chairman of the State Conservative Party in 1974, executive vice chairman in 1985, and state chairman in 1989. Chairman Long has appeared in 3 previous episodes and joins me to discuss the rising level of dissent and outrage amongst members of the Republican Party now that Donald Trump is the GOP's presumptive nominee. It's a pleasure to welcome you back, Mr. Chairman.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much.
Let me begin by saying that I have an even greater level of respect for you for accepting my 4th invitation, especially after you publicly stated, with great conviction I might add, that you didn't think Donald Trump would be the party's nominee and that he would fade out.
Yeah, I guess that is a quote I made, and when you make these quotes, they stay with you. But I think he certainly has proved not only me wrong, but he has proved, I think, an awful lot of people wrong. And he has tapped into frustration and anger that the American people don't want to do business as usual anymore. Tomorrow is going to be another primary. He's already gotten more votes, primary votes, than any other candidate in the history of the Republican Party national primary. So I think he certainly has established himself as a person that has to be contended with.
During your last appearance, I asked the following. If Trump manages to overtake Cruz and becomes the nominee, would you do what most conservatives are planning to do, toe the party line and support Trump? Or would you be willing to go against the rank and file to represent what you consider to be true conservatism? That question has even greater relevance now that the battle lines have been drawn within the Republican Party. As you know, Presidents George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush, Mitt Romney, and Lindsey Graham have taken a stand in support of true conservatism by not endorsing Trump. Others have resigned from the party, and one GOP official set his voter ID on fire and posted the photo online. On May 11th, the Daily Beast reported that a number of Pentagon officials intend to retire or quit if Trump becomes president. However, leading conservatives like Senator John McCain, New York Congressman Peter King, former Senate Majority Leader Bob Dole, and former House Speaker John Boehner have said they will endorse the presumptive nominee. Now that the Republican Party appears to be fractured, would it be fair to say Trump has severely hurt the party by causing bad blood and division amongst its members?
Look, I don't think he's hurt the party. I think certain individuals are not willing at this stage of the game to get on the train and assist him in defeating Hillary Clinton. Saying that, I think as time goes on, more and more, and already more Republicans across the nation have been jumping on the Trump train.
Such as House Speaker Paul Ryan.
Namely Paul Ryan, many congressmen, many senators, even Lindsey Graham has softened his positions, okay? And I believe as time goes on, a number of them will soften their position and wind up supporting Donald Trump because they don't want and they see Hillary Clinton as a real threat, as an extension of another 4 years of Barack Obama, and that would take the country totally in the wrong direction.
On June 5th, the Washington Post published an article entitled GOP Worries Rise Amid Hostile Trump Comments on Latinos and Muslims, in which Speaker Paul Ryan, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and former House Speaker Newt Gingrich denounced statements that many in the party and country regarded as racist. From the beginning of his campaign, Trump has made it very clear that he does what he wants when he wants, and he couldn't care less about what people think, including members of the GOP. How concerned are you about the fact that he continues to make these comments and change his positions on a frequent basis?
Well, certainly it was a more than an artful statement that he made. Whether it was any with meanness or racial tendency, it was a statement that I don't agree with. I'm on the same page as former Speaker Newt Gingrich on that subject. And I think certainly Mr. Trump has to understand that the primary is coming to an end. And now, and if he's going to win this election, he doesn't have to change his positions or style, but he has to be mindful of the fact that independents, and while he has brought many independents into the Republican Party, while he's brought many Democrats back into the Republican Party, and he's proven that in the primary process, I think he has to be careful on how he expresses himself on various statements, as he did with the judge. Okay, I think his statement, he is entitled to lash out and disagree with the judge, that the judge doesn't agree with him on the wall, doesn't agree with him, and that the judge may be a liberal Democrat. His philosophical beliefs are shading his decisions towards the Trump case. He's entitled to all that, but he has to leave the ethnic comments out of his statements.
As a United States Marine Corps veteran, were you as outraged as other veterans over the fact that Trump lied about the amount of money he raised to help those who serve?
I have a problem with the press on that one, and I don't believe Trump wasn't not going to give the money to the veterans. I think it was an ongoing process. Now, he may have accelerated it once the press started to dig in, so I'll give the press credit for getting it expedited. But I don't believe for a second that he was not going to give that money to the veterans. And for them to make that accusation, they have a right to dig into it. They have a right to ask those questions. And then maybe they accelerated the distribution of the funds. But certainly to raise the accusation like he wasn't going to give the veterans the money, I just don't agree with the press on that one.
Your points are duly noted, Mr. Chairman, but it's a little more than that. Trump originally said he'd given a total of $6 million to veterans groups, but according to the Washington Post, campaign manager Corey Lewandowski said the fundraiser actually netted about $4.5 million, or 75% of the total that Trump announced. The Washington Post investigated the claims and estimated the total amount raised was $3.1 million, and the checks weren't submitted until after the Washington Post investigation was published.
I think it came to a total of $5.5 million. So if in fact, he made that announcement of $6 million, I think on the night they held the event, okay? And I guess all the numbers weren't in. But $5.5 million is pretty close to $6 million. So I understand it's $500,000 short, but the bottom line, I don't think I'm going to hold them accountable for saying I gave them $6 million. Maybe he should have used the word I gave close to $6 million. It wound up being $5.5 million. That's the numbers I have seen.
You do understand that this was an issue for some people because many, in and outside of the media, have called Trump out for distorting the truth or exaggerating.
And I would hope that the listeners listening to this interview would clearly understand that they may not like Donald Trump, but I would give them a little room on the fact that they were vetting the various groups that they were giving it. It wasn't that they got the money in one day and then just sent it out the next day. There was a lot of vetting going on. There was a lot of work that had to be done to that. No one made any money on this, so it took some time. Maybe it got accelerated because the press started asking questions, and that's fine. I have no problem with the press asking questions, but for the press to make accusations that the money wasn't going to go to the vets, and that's the unspoken word involved there, there's where I disagree with them totally.
A few days ago, New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman appeared on a number of cable and network news shows and proclaimed that Trump University was, and this is an exact quote, straight up fraud. He went on to explain that his investigation revealed how Trump and university administrators allegedly duped those who enrolled in the now defunct training program. The Attorney General believes the state has a very strong case. In a recent Fortune magazine article, Writer Roger Parloff stated, "A presidential nominee on trial for civil fraud could be huge," and he used Bernie Sanders' word there, huge, come August. Given the Attorney General's findings and Parloff's statement, how likely is it that you and the members of the Conservative Party of New York State will withdraw your support of Donald Trump, especially if he has to stand trial?
First of all, we have to look at the background of Attorney General Schneiderman, who clearly is a progressive, liberal, Democratic Party hack. Saying that, I don't know, and my understanding is the investigation is a civil investigation. We're not talking about criminal activity. I believe the people who participated in the Trump University program ultimately signed up for the program. No one put a gun to their head to go to the schools, to go to the lectures, to go to the various seminars that were held, okay? Now, there may have been, my understanding is, there may have been a violation that Trump isn't allowed to use the word university, and that's where the case may wind up coming, and there may be a fine, a civil fine. Ultimately, if he loses that part of the case, he'll have to pay the fine. That's certainly a hell of a lot different than Hillary Clinton's reckless use of a home server and the email operation that she participated in while she was Secretary of State. There is no comparison. You want to talk about breaking the law and having a civil penalty that maybe Mr. Trump is going to face.
Do you believe Secretary Clinton will be indicted in the email scandal?
Well, I certainly don't know. If it's left up to the Justice Department, I would say she probably will not be indicted. Clearly, she'll have that protection from the Obama administration. It depends how strongly the FBI steps up when they finalize their investigation, what exactly it says. Not being part of the investigation, I don't know. It appears to me that she should be indicted, that's for sure. Not because I'm a partisan on it. She certainly risked and lied about national security, and she destroyed tens of thousands emails. So she was clearly mindful of the fact that she was out of the norm, and it was brought to her attention. And when people brought it to their attention, those individuals were told never to raise the issue of her emails again.
So you don't take President Obama at his word when he publicly stated that he believed the Justice Department would conduct a fair and impartial investigation?
If she becomes a Democratic nominee, I really question whether they will step forward and indict her.
You think it'll be a case of politics as usual, as they say?
Exactly because of politics. She may get a reprimand. She may get told that it was unethical, but I don't believe they're going to move forward with criminal indictment.
What did you think of the Inspector General's report?
I think it was very damaging to her. And I think this Inspector General's report was very damaging. You got to remember, you have the FBI investigation going on at the same, so the administration has to be very careful so that they're not totally out of sync with the FBI, which is, I believe, clearly and independent. I have high regard for the head of the FBI. Both sides of the aisle have high regard for him. So they're not quite sure what's going to come out of the FBI investigation. That may force them to indict her, if dependent how strong their investigation shows the breaking of the law.
You served as a volunteer for Barry Goldwater's presidential campaign in 1964. So I'm sure you vividly recall the tragic series of events that took place in Chicago during the 1968 Democratic Convention.
Very much so.
When examining the current economic, political, and social climate in this country, do you believe history is likely to repeat itself during the upcoming conventions?
I think both conventions are in jeopardy of having history repeat itself. I think the Bernie Sanders movement, I don't think he's going to quit even if he loses California. I think he's going to continue to move forward. I think his supporters are tired of business as usual. I think the Republican convention, where Trump will officially get the designation as the Republican standard bearer for President of the United States, I believe the crowds outside the lawlessness will continue, what we've seen outside the Trump rallies, where illegal immigrants are demonstrating and terrorizing people who were at those rallies. And I think, we're in for a real tough summer. And this is not the way it should be, but I think we're going to live in 1968 all over again. The only difference is it's a possibility we're going to live it on both conventions, both the Democratic and Republican Party convention.
It's always a pleasure, Chairman Long. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I thank you for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, stay cool, stay safe, and stay informed.